ADHD Babes, the podcast, a podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Join us every 2 weeks to share in our babes' personal experiences, gain useful tools, and be educated by special guests in topics such as ADHD management, relationships, general well-being, tech and fun, culture, and more. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDbabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Don't Call Me Stupid. Thanks to all of our listeners so far for joining us. And today's host is going to be hosted by me, or episode is going to be hosted by me, Beza, and
me, Mani. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing the perception of ADHDers having low IQ. This often results in that person feeling like they're stupid, which in turn can have a number of harmful effects.
Joining us on the conversation today, we have ADHD babes Shereen and Abigail. Welcome to you both.
Hey.
Hi. Hey.
Okay, so to get us started, we may as well start right at the beginning. Where does the perception of low intelligence for those who live with HD actually stem from?
Abigail or Shereen, do you have any answers for that?
I would say that it comes from ignorance and misunderstanding in education, work, friendships with family and friends. I'd say ADHD can affect your ability to function at work and school, making it like really hard to complete certain tasks, like everyday tasks. Like there could be tasks that people will deem as simple and like everybody else can get on with it, so why can't you get on with it? And that can kind of help, it kind of can lead people to think, well, you can't be that intelligent because, you know, this is so simple, like why do you just not get it? But like with ADHD, it's really hard to focus, like we can get easily distracted, we can fidget, we can't sit still or like interrupt. And I think especially if you don't know about ADHD, like whether it's teachers or bosses, it can seem like you're just like either just like a troubled person, like you're just there to cause trouble, like you don't actually want to learn, you don't actually want to succeed at work, and that's like completely the opposite. It's just that you have ADHD, which means that you need certain things in place, and it's not your fault if you can't focus or you get easily distracted. And also being easily distracted and not being able to focus or like fidgeting and stuff, that can also affect your ability to learn. So teachers can also see that as like you're being like a troubled child, or your bosses can be like, well, you don't actually care, or your family can be like, why are you like this? But it's really not your fault. And it doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. It just means that your brain works in a different way. So yeah. Sorry, I just kind of rambled, sorry.
No, I couldn't like agree more with everything you're saying, Shereen. I think that's what it is. And I think linking to what you're saying, I think sometimes that feeling of stupidity can come from within ourselves, like either that internalized ableism, or if you especially if you don't know that it's ADHD, just trying to find the language and being so hard on yourself. So like you said, the simplest of things can often feel so challenging for us, and I know at times can be literally debilitating for me when it comes to like those tasks. It can make you feel like I'm trying to give it my all, why isn't it working when I have all these good attempts? So I must just be stupid or lazy. So it means that we start associating those terms with us. And I read something the other day that I was like, oh my god, I feel like this applies to ADHD. I think it was called like, what's the theory, the spoon theory, where often like I think it didn't just apply to ADHD. I think it applied to generally a lot of people who might have like
Yeah, it is a disability term.
Yeah, a disability term. Yeah, so it's not just, so the idea that like, I think there's so only so much you can kind of, I guess, commit to in a day, or so many
Yeah.
tasks and stuff, that it can be like describing the amount of mental or physical energy a person has for daily activities. And I think I just remember reading it being like, oh my God, this often so applies to ADHD, where it's like, I literally feel like I've only got so many spoons I can like use in a day, and then I'm exhausted. So I think that's often what it is a lot of the time, that like you said, and because our brains, it's just about working in a different way. Sometimes we might just process things differently, or things like that. So it's not stupid, it's just looking at things in a different way. And often the world is not, the neurotypical world we live in isn't kind to that, or thinks there's only a certain way of doing things. And if you're doing things a different way, it can be deemed as stupid, as opposed to just, and a lot of the time I think the ways we do things is probably actually a lot more practical and a lot more like feasible for the world. So I think, yeah, that's just some of the reasons why I think sometimes it's us being hard on ourselves, but the way the world is set up makes us feel like we're stupid as well.
Yeah.
And I think it also lowers self-esteem. You get that point when, I think a lot of times when we're, especially for Black women, I think you get to that tipping point and then you understand you got something going on. Cause like usually we're not, cause it's like not like assuming that this is what it could be. But then we get to that point, we research on certain things and we're like, okay, I think this is what I got. I think it shouldn't take for us to get to that tipping point to, understand that we got ADHD. And so Abigail, I'm really glad that you brought up, ableism, and we wanted to, like, I guess it's not only about that someone may call you stupid directly, but that's where the ableism could come from. And we had a look at different places for a definition of ableism, and Very Well Mind describes it as ableism is discrimination against people with disabilities. The discrimination can be intentional or unintentional and is based on the belief that there is a correct way for bodies and minds to function, and that anyone who deviates from that is inferior. Ableism centers around the notion that people with disabilities are imperfect and need fixing. It can show up in ways ranging from personal to institutional, and it includes the many ways in which people with disabilities are considered less than non-disabled people. And so basically, ableism is putting the worth on the person and comparing them to neurotypical activities. And so I guess I wanted to ask you all, what ways have you experienced ableism?
Well,
I know that's a loaded question.
I kind of feel like there's been like far too many things, because it's like I didn't get diagnosed until January with my ADHD, and I'm in my 30s, and I also didn't get diagnosed with dyslexia until I got to uni. So when it came to like school and stuff, I failed my GCSEs, and I really struggled a lot. But what I found was, this is going to sound a bit crazy, but I have actually had teachers, and like teachers are meant to be there to look after you, guide you and help you. But I have actually had, I had one teacher who was teaching me religious studies at school. And I used to I used to stare out the window a lot, and I just struggled to take things in. And there was just one day where he got so annoyed with me, because he just stopped the class and he was just like, "What is wrong with you, Shereen? Like, religious studies is the simplest like topic you can study, but yet you can't do it. You're stupid, you will amount to nothing." And like hearing that, like as I don't know, I may have been like 14 or something, hearing that when I already like I have anxiety. I don't know what anxiety is, but I just feel it. And having that happen to you in front of a whole class is horrible. And it kind of feels like you're meant to be supported in that space, but that's not the only time it happened. Like I made up all my courses and I went to college, and I did like graphic design, like multimedia. So we had Photoshop. Having dyslexia and ADHD and trying to learn Photoshop. Now that is a combo, but not knowing that you have it. So everyone else is there. Like I was the only girl in the class out of 36 guys, which is already daunting as it is. and you have this guy teacher who's teaching everyone on the screen like how to do all the stuff in Photoshop, and you're sat there and you're still stuck. They've started the project and they finished it and you're still at step 1. He looked at my page, he stopped the whole class, and he just like, why are you so stupid? And I was just like, I don't understand, like, you've gone too fast for me. I can't keep up with everything that we've just done in this hour class. He was just like, you can't do this. You can't even do Photoshop. You are stupid. Guess what? I bet I will see you working at Sainsbury's in a checkout, because that's all you'll ever amount to. And he said that to me in front of the whole class, and I will never forget it. Never.
It's just outrageous that someone would say that to you, and that would be in a setting where it's supposed to be a supportive learning environment. And to me, I mean, I haven't had exactly the same experience, but it resonates with me so much, because when teachers say to you, you know, you're so, not explicitly calling you stupid even, but treating you as though you are, and treating you as though you're slow without giving you the support that you actually need, you internalize that, and you either become the child that doesn't pay attention and starts acting up. And then especially, you know, if you've got combined ADHD, then the inattentive part kind of comes into play with the hyperactive part. You start acting up more, and then you just think, I don't even care about school at this point, because at this point, why would I care about someone that doesn't care about me? So then that doubles down on your existing ADHD symptoms and makes it even more difficult to learn. So that ableism element is almost the trigger and the spark that sets off all of these different things that make school just not a comfortable environment for someone who's got ADHD, coupled with, obviously, if you're in an environment which is mostly white and you're a person of color, or you're a Black woman specifically, that feels even more hostile towards you, because, you know, all the stereotypes and stuff like that. So yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, and it's just awful that you even had to experience that. So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank
I was
you, I
thinking the
appreciate
same
it.
thing, Shereen. Like, that's horrible. And what was playing in my mind was like, kind of what you say, Moni, but this whole idea of, I mean, you were a child, and it feeds into, I feel like, what you say, Moni, about how often ADHD manifests differently in boys and girls. But I feel like where that kind of ableism and expectation is, it seems like as a young Black girl, you weren't being belligerent or acting up. You were kind of, it was the inattentive side. You were daydreaming, you know, probably your the hyperactivities in your mind, you're trying to, and instead of, because often as young Black girls, and I remember reading something that talked about that many young Black girls often aren't seen as having ADHD. Instead, they're just presumed to be non-compliant and be a threat and not wanting to pay attention, because they're not looked at as like young girls who need help, like how a hyperactive white boy is. It's just associated. So it's just sad that in that moment, the teacher failed you and didn't think that you needed more support. They just thought, and they thought the right way to approach it was to publicly embarrass you in front of a class, when you're not. It's not even like, not for any, regardless of how you acting, even if you were kind of acting up, but you weren't even, you know, being a threat, or you were just in your own world, probably trying to. So it's really sad. And I think you saying that just made me think of things in school, and I feel like the expectation, especially often of Black girls, to be a certain way, which then makes you feel stupid, so you don't want to express things. Like, I remember I used to struggle with things like textiles. Like, I used to hate those. I couldn't sew. I was not good at that stuff. Or I guess attention to detail, or like, what would they call it? The cooking, I guess. I think it was called home economics when I was
Home
like in
ec,
school.
yeah.
I was like terrible with stuff like that. But there's this expectation, you're like a young Black girl, and Black girls are supposed to be able to cook and be nurturers. This is all like the life that's set up for you.
I'm still
So
guilty
like,
about that.
literally, I'm still, at 31, I'm still not the best. The best, that hasn't changed.
So I can help.
So it just makes you realize, like, the expectations are often placed in you from a young age, from like unintentionally, family, culturally, and then in school, and then you feel, you internalize it, and then it makes you feel like, well, I'm stupid, I'm just failing at life and these simple tasks that is expected of me as a young Black girl. So yeah, I feel like that's what also adds to kind of that feeling stupid, the way the world already expects you to be. And I feel like the high expectations often placed on like young Black women to be nurturers and to be able to cook and to be strong and to be able to do all this stuff.
Right.
I would also say that it's funny, because when I was at school, my ADHD, it's not anything that you would expect expect, but I have combined, so hyperactive and inattentive, and my hyperactivity just did not work with sports. I couldn't do organized sports, organized activities. It just didn't work. And it's almost as if everyone expected me to be an amazing sports person, and they always tried to get me to do cross country and athletics.
Oh my
because
God,
obviously
same. Full black girl. Go on,
and I
run.
was just, yeah, literally, and I was just like,
Basically.
I don't even know what the rules of this game is. Like, what even is going on at this point? Like, I'm not engaging in this sport, but they would still consistently force you into it. And it just makes me used to think, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this?
Oh man, you're taking me back. I just remember because I went to a girls' secondary school, and weirdly, I didn't mind basketball. I think because there was less rules, but netball was something that was very common. They would always try and make the girls do. I think it was because it had more rules, and I just didn't get it. It's like you couldn't just, although there's a lot more rules with basketball, but at least the idea to me was I throw in the hoop, like I figure it out. With netball, it's like they'd want you to like you'd have to pivot and turn around and do this before you could pass it. There was just too many rules, and I just never understood. It's like this is not simple. Why is this? And I think you're so right with a lot of like sports. I think that's why I never enjoyed it because it felt like there was too many rules. It's not, you can't just kick it in the goal. You've got to do this or it has to go here before it can go here. And rounders was the same. I never enjoyed any of that stuff. It required too much retaining information.
Right.
Yeah,
I feel like I went. Oh no, I was just gonna say with the sports, I was like, I think I went through that as well because I was like, playing soccer. There's a lot of like, oh yeah, you can't go past this thing, you can't go past this line, or da da da. I'm like, oh my God, like okay, I'd rather just leave soccer.
Exactly.
If-
There's a
if
goal.
this
Why
is
can't I
what-
just kick it in the goal? Why does it require all this extra stuff?
Oh my God.
Right.
It's just like, why do you care so much about these rules? Because why are they there in the first place? That's just why. Why? That's always my question. But why?
Yeah, that's the ADHD question. We're like, why?
So I was also just wondering, does anyone have any suggestions on how we may be able to change these scenarios to help ensure that neurodivergent people, especially Black women and non-binary people, can fit into society as well as neurotypicals? It's a
I
difficult
was,
one.
oh, sorry. I kind of feel like a big part of it starts from education and awareness as well. Because like also being Black woman or Black non-binary person and coming from like a African background or Caribbean background, like when it comes to mental health or anything like that, it's very taboo. It's just not tolerated like at all. It's kind of like a, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. Just get on with it, which can make it harder, like when you get diagnosed and stuff, to be able to open up to your family about it. But I kind of feel like if it started back at education and there was a way to make sure that all schools could accommodate the kids that have like ADHD or and dyslexia and stuff like that, that would be a good start. And also, if there was a way that like teachers and bosses, like if there was some sort of program that people who are generally in charge of a mass amount of people, if there was a way or like a department that just could just be there to support people, have awareness. Also like stuff like TV shows or like books or computer games, if they had like characters who also had ADHD and also looked like us, or even if it's not Black women, but also that if it was Black women and Black non-binary people, that'd be double awesome, obviously. But yeah, like if we had that in popular culture, I feel like it would bring more awareness to people, because there probably are still a lot of people who haven't heard what ADHD is. Like I didn't know until like a few years ago, not gonna lie. Like I'd never heard of it. So yeah, I just think it's more about awareness really, and just discussing it, and then having like characters in popular culture who do have who are neurodivergent and stuff like that would help a lot, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Funny enough, I like we have a neurodiverse network in like where I work, and like I help and like kind of coach her stuff with that. And we were saying how we want to kind of start doing kind of like a media kind of book club thing every month just to talk about things in the media, neurodiverse characters, and I wanted to kind of add that intersectional lens of like
Yeah.
black and ethnic minority people, and it's just so hard, isn't it? Because it isn't a lot of the time the language. You could probably watch stuff now and probably think, oh, that person probably does have ADHD, but it's never been like
Yeah.
acknowledged, or there's no language for it in that way. And similar to you, like I've been aware of ADHD, but when someone first when I read something about it, I thought, like, isn't ADHD associated with like hyperactive like young boys, predominantly like white boys? I've never
Yeah.
known it to be in adults, or me as a woman, or me as a black person. So you're right. I think everything you're saying is so right, Shereen. I think a lot of that intersectional lens, I think there needs to be more like guidelines in like more in the education system with like GPs and medical practitioners. A lot of us know the experiences of dealing with them. It's just, there's not that intersectional lens. So sometimes these are supposed to be people who are supposed to be experiencing this stuff, but they don't have the lens of looking at it from our experiences. So I think so much needs to be done. And I'm always, it's taking me a while, but try and have those conversations in my family. Recently spoke to my mum about my ADHD, and at first she kind of not minimize it, but she was like, but you were smart, you did well in school, it might have taken you a bit longer, but you always did well. But like now she's reading things and she'll come up to me and she'll be like, oh, this makes sense now, yeah, that's why you were smart. But like you just always felt like you were never settled, you could never sit still, you was always worrying and thinking about things. And so it's just, I think being able to create those safe spaces like does help, because a lot of the time it's not that our families don't want to know, it's just they haven't been given the tools and the language. They've been taught to come here, work twice as hard, like and they don't want to be stigmatized with this stuff because it is associated with like it negatively has been associated often sometimes with being lazy and stupid. So it's just about kind of reframing that, isn't it, and letting them know that no, so much of the positives in me is because of my ADHD and potentially in you, because a lot of us are looking at our parents and it's like I've said this before, my dad definitely has ADHD. I look at him all the time and I'm like, you're not really understanding. I got it from you.
Trust me. It's always
that's me too.
It's funny because I was explaining to my dad what ADHD was, and he was like, yeah, but I have that. And I was like, yeah,
exactly.
And he was like, no, I have that. It's not a thing. I was like, no, you have it.
I actually saw something on the internet. It was saying, like African time, or like Black people time. We like categorize like diverse things into like a cultural thing, and then we like make ourselves feel better about that. We're like, oh, it's just Black people. Like people like don't understand that like it's other things happening.
Oh my God, Beza, you're right. A lot of these executive function stuff,
right?
Like we're placing this cultural stuff. Wow,
you're really
it's like an ADHD meetup. We're like, hey, everyone else is gonna be late, so.
Oh God, imagine everyone would be late. You'd probably have to like secretly set it like an hour like earlier, just to give everyone some time.
Yeah,
3 hours.
3 hours.
Okay, 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah, you're so
We'll
right.
still be late.
I feel like as well, that's another thing with school, because school is so regimented with, at this time, 10 a.m. be in this class, 10:30 be in this class, bring this thing with you. And if you don't have this, you will not be able to participate fully. And it's just like, if you have ADHD, that's realistically, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to be at every single place at the right time with the right stuff. Whether you have combined, inattentive or hyperactive, you're never going to be able to, well, maybe you will, maybe, I don't know, maybe your ADHD manifests in a different way, but personally, I would just never be able to succeed in that way. So it's kind of setting you up to fail before you've even begun.
I mean, it is. I mean, when you think about the education system and like kind of the way that we're set up to be working all day as we're going into the workforce after that. So it is kind of set up just like, I think it all just ties to capitalism, right? Because it's just like we're working from 7 a.m. to like whenever we go home, and then we get used to that, and then we go to work after that, right? Like when we graduate like high school and everything. So I think it is failing as like a person, I think, but also succeeding for the economy, if that makes sense. Like for the world. So
Yeah, because it's not in your best interests as an individual to be spending this much time, doing X, Y, and Z, whatever your workplace activity is. And then if you're neurodivergent, on top of that, is combined with the added stress that it takes to be doing it, it's even more difficult for you. It's difficult for a neurotypical person. It's even more difficult for a neurodivergent person. And that actually reminds me of something that I wrote. It was a TED talk I watched, and I can't remember who it was, but it was a guy, and he was a black guy, and he had ADHD. And he was talking about how when we were hunter-gatherers and we were in the wild, people who had ADHD would probably be the leaders of the tribe, or of the
Did he have
group.
dreads?
Yeah, he had dreads.
Yeah, I've seen that one. I thought it's a
It's
really
good.
good one. Yeah.
And it's basically just saying, we would be the ones that would spot the flash of color in the distance, which would be the tiger, which would mean that we were in danger, or we'd be the one that were curious enough to push the boundaries of our settlement, or we'd be the ones that would be taking the risks to go out at times when people wouldn't usually go out. And that is something that would be seen as a positive. But the way society has evolved now is to the point where, it's completely in the favor of the neurotypical people. And that made me think, I think he said something about ADHD being a superpower. And I thought, that's so nice. And I've always tried to say that to my friends when they've had a diagnosis or something and they're struggling with being neurodivergent, understanding that it's not, training your mind to understand it is not a problem. It's a positive. The problem isn't you. The problem is society asking you to be a different thing than what you are.
And I couldn't agree more, especially in certain environments. Like I feel like so many of kind of 9 to 5 places offers jobs. Me working in the civil service, I'm always honest about how it's like they've been structured to do things a certain way for so long. No one ever really questions why they're doing it like that, and they just presume that's the way to do everything. And it's only when you kind of come in and be like, but why are we doing it like this, and why can't we think of other ways? So I remember seeing something online when I was trying to help a colleague that I manage in terms of, like, why don't we all just try and understand each other's personal preferences and working adjustments instead of like, this is how everyone does stuff. So I filled in something and sent it to her, and I'm happy to send it to other people where like it's things like conditions I like to work in, the best ways to communicate with me, like the ways I receive feedback, because that all does make a difference. Like, why are we all presuming that we all receive feedback in the same way, or we all communicate, or like those things can, in an office, it's like, I guess it's not exactly the same, but it's like how love languages are different. Like we all interpret things a different way. So why can't we just try and understand that to help each other? But I think sometimes, especially in a lot of like 9 to 5 kind of corporate jobs, it's like just push that this is the only way to do things. But a lot of the times it's like, no, I think some of the ways we tend to do things as neurodivergent people is like, it's based around like more empathy and understanding that it probably would be a lot better in a lot of working worlds and places. So I think, there just needs to be more of an encouragement to try and adapt and do things differently.
It is just like a love language. It literally is. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you're understanding them as a person. And think about how many hours you spend with your work colleagues. You see them more than you probably do your partner. So why would you not try to understand them?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like, in a way, that as neurodivergent people, we're kind of like set up to fail a bit, because like straight from school all through to work and stuff, like everything is so rigid,
Right.
and they just expect everyone to be the same. And I don't know, it's just so weird how rigid it is, and how there's like no room for improvement, but there is room for improvement. It's whether it's work or school or whatever. Also, it'd be cool if the government sorted something out. But if it was less rigid, sorry, if it was less rigid and more supportive, because that's where everything starts from. That's where you get like you're learning your 1, 2, ABCs, everything. But you're just put in this rigid, I can't even think of a word to describe it right now, like from ages,
Structures?
whatever. Yeah, perfect. Up until like you go to uni and then you go off to work. And yeah, we're in 2022. There's got to be like some sort of change. Like there's loads that can be like done to help everybody out, so everyone can succeed and not feel like a failure and be supported.
Yeah.
And I'd be so sorry, I was just going to say, I'd be interested to know like the UK US a difference? Because I always feel like in the UK, I feel like it's ridiculous from such a young age, kind of the expectations of when we're expecting, like here at like 14, is it 14, 15, you have to kind of start picking your GCSEs and the subjects you want to take and stuff, which when you think about it, it's ridiculous. So it's
Your
like,
life.
I've got to have
Yeah.
an idea of what subjects I take that can potentially have a effect on if I choose to go to university, the subject I can take there. And I'm not sure, but I feel like the USA, there's a bit more isn't it when you get to university that you then start specializing a bit more? Because I feel like in the UK, it's like a much earlier age of kind of having to, if you do take the university, obviously not everyone does that approach, but having
I
to
guess
work
it
stuff out.
depends. What is the GS?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm like, what is that
is,
first?
well, it's
Is it like the WASL? Like we have we had a
SATs,
WASL.
America?
Is it like
Is that,
standardized testing?
yes, because I think
Okay, we
SAT
had
is like maybe
yeah.
A levels, but I might be wrong.
Mhm. Oh wow! So you take 3 different tests.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
at the GCSE one, so before, like, I guess your equivalent of the SATs is when you're encouraged already to start thinking about particular, if you choose to go down this route, particular subjects. And I guess not taking some of those earlier would affect you being able to specialize in certain things at uni. I've just always
Oh
found that ridiculous when I
wow!
look back, that how young, I didn't know what the hell I was doing at 14. A lot of the, and especially if you're from certain cultural backgrounds, you're picking it because your parents are telling you, like, pick the
Yeah.
sciences and stuff so you can be a doctor, even though you don't have any passions to be a doctor or a lawyer or something.
Right. I think we used to have a thing called the WASL, which is like standardized testing, and then we still have like standardized testing. And of course, I think this leads perfectly to the next question, just because there's things like of honors, do you know, like, do you guys have honors classes? Or like the class of the people that are the smarter ones, and then there's like math, the regular math, and then there's like the
Gifted and
the
talented
other
year.
math, right? And
Yeah.
so we had like those, you had to like either, I think, have a certain GPA, or you either, I think, tested, I'm not sure. And then there's just like different ways of classifying, I guess, the people who are like can be smarter, and then the ones that can't. And so I guess our next question is like, for those who would be, I guess, in those honor classes and have ADHD, like how do you think this affects them getting a diagnosis? The people that are seemed to maybe have it all together, but not really.
I think people have high levels of stress, because I think if you're neurodivergent, you can put a lot of pressure on yourself anyway. And then if you have got these expectations, I think culturally, especially, Black people can have a lot of expectations from their family, or again at school, if you showed some promise in the earlier years, you have so much pressure on yourself that you get so stressed. And then these people grow up to be, lawyers or solicitors, doctors or whatever, and they are just so stressed because they're taking so much on to satisfy the ADHD desires of, being busy or being hyperactive, and feeling that the only way out to kind of what's the word, an outlet for these ADHD hyperactive feelings is to just work so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when I think about my time in school, I feel like there's not sometimes, what am I trying to say? Like the space to, like, I guess, look at all facets of you. So I was like quite good at, like, I really liked English and history. I guess all the humanities stuff, that's what they'd be deemed as, isn't it? I was quite good at that stuff. And I wasn't too bad at maths, but I was never good at science. I don't know what it was about science. Maybe my mind just wouldn't think like that. But it's like, I guess you were always forced just made to feel like, well, you can't be trying that hard because clearly you're academic and you do well in some of these subjects, so you just need to like push yourself. So I feel like you're all saying, you then put pressure on yourself to feel like, well, clearly I do have some capabilities and I can do well and stuff, so I'm not trying hard enough. I feel like it can put such pressure, and especially like you said on ADHD people, if they're always trying to kind of prove themselves, it can just lead to, and I think that's what happens for a lot of I think Black women and non-binary people. It often gets to a stage where it's often like a too much stage that leads you to realize. So I think that's where it was at uni that I found out about my dyspraxia, which now I look back was also ADHD, because it's like I was just trying and I just like everything became too much. And it is really interesting when you speak. I feel like you speak to a lot of Black women and non-binary people, because you often do hear it's those kind of milestones of like exam period or uni or motherhood. Like it's something where they've been having to try and hold it all together, and then it becomes too much.
Burnout.
but literally, yeah, it's the burnout where you've been having to mask, and we know that we're more likely to mask, that it just, yeah, it gets to a stage of becoming too much.
It's interesting that you say masking. I'd be interested to know what masking techniques you picked up in school and how you carry them through uni or college, and whether you still feel the need to mask in the workplace or whether you've kind of got rid of that.
I didn't find out I had ADHD until this year, so
True.
how did I deal with it? Probably did a lot of drinking, not gonna lie.
Yes, that's
What
a
else?
thing.
What else did
That's
I do? Oh, I started gaming. So just escaping to another world, I found quite soothing while I was away at uni and like struggling. But I'm not gonna lie, when it came to like social situations and just the whole thing of like moving somewhere new as well, and especially not knowing you have ADHD, it's kind of interesting to kind of look back at the things that you may have done that helped, which you wouldn't have thought of as masking. So like, I don't know, like for instance, so like the drinking, which helped me come out of my shell to be able to socialize and like talk to people. But normally, I would just be very anxious, and I had a thing where I didn't really trust people too much, because I kind of feel like when you have ADHD, you can be like really empathetic. I hope I said that right. I think I said that word right. Yeah, you can be like really empathetic and caring and stuff. And there are people out there who will take advantage of that. And sometimes it takes you so many times to get burnt before you realize, wait, but because I didn't have ADHD, I thought I was the problem. But now I look back at it, no, it's not. It wasn't you. It was people who could see that they could take advantage of you, and they did it. It's not a reflection on you, it's a reflection on them. And I kind of feel like I find it hard to build like friendships. Like if I have friendships with people, I find it really hard to open up. So you kind of like have to like earn my trust. And then when I have like a good set of close people, like they like become my family. Like, don't get me wrong, like I love to meet new people and make friends, but I do find it hard. But also like living like in Surrey, like where I live, not gonna lie, there's not many Black people here. So the whole ADHD babes thing is amazing because I'm meeting like so many, like you're all awesome, lovely Black women, lovely Black non-binary people. And it's so good to see because like I don't see any of that here, and it makes me sad.
And like you
That's
said, Shereen, it just helps with like the language, isn't it? So many things that I've learned in this ADHD babe space as well. That like, oh, that's so. What I've been doing is like masking. Because similarly, I got my official. I've suspected I've had ADHD for the last few years, and then I got like the official diagnosis September last year. And similarly, it's just like when you look back at things, I feel like my like masking thing was definitely with like boundaries. I feel like the things I wasn't good at, I would always try and be like the best friend I could be. I guess that was the thing I tried to have the territory on, that like, and then that's where my lack of boundaries would come in. And it's like, I'm not good at this, or I'm not good. I don't want people to realize that, you know, my house is a mess or I'm terrible at this. So I'm going to be that person who tries to do things for everyone. And like I tried to hone in on that. And I feel like when I think about work, I feel like I've, spent a lifetime masking of not really knowing what I'm doing or trying to figure it out, trying to imitate how other people do things in the working world because I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm like, oh, that's how they carry themselves in the meeting. That's the way I'm supposed to be. So let me try and be more like that, because that seems to be what the status kind of quo is. So it is interesting when you kind of look back and you think, oh my God, yeah, I've been trying to, and naturally as people of like, you know, ethnic minority people and women, we're used to kind of having to try to assimilate, but you just never realize it's that ADHD on top of it as well.
I think last episode that I did, I had said this word, but I feel like it's a triggering word for those that have like the honors and all that, the potential that you have, or like they're like, you have so much potential. They're like, you're just not using this, like you're gonna ruin your life. Like, look at you, look at everything that you can do, but then like look at this area. And I think I guess when I was thinking about the hunting and gathering portion that Mani was talking about, is it like kind of like in emergencies you feel better, but then it's like to fix things or like doing those kind of things, but then it's like the everyday, the cooking, the cleaning, the little things that like people are like, okay, these are the easy things. Why can't you do the easy things, but you could do the hard things? Like I sometimes feel that way where I'm like, oh my God, I can do this like academic thing, or like I could do this like, you know, work related thing. And then it's like, oh, but like I can't do this like easy thing. I can't.
Speaking about that with my mom this week, because when she's on SEND ADHD, she's like, that's something I could never understand. That why could you like why were you at 13 writing these like deep debates about life and all this other stuff? But like you couldn't keep your room clean, or you would lose your like keys and stuff all the time. It's like I didn't understand that. That's literally, and that's where the frustration would come in. And like she's staying with me in my small place, and that's what she was saying. She's like, I see you like work all hours of the day and you're doing this and this and this, but like your small space, I watch you just take a plate out and like leave this cupboard open. It's
right.
just like, why? And it's like, I don't know. That's just how my brain works.
It just happens.
I have the intention to, but I open it and I won't close it. Or like, you're right.
Yeah.
Your brain is just like, sorry. No,
oh no, go ahead. Do you want to say something, Shereen? Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, I was just gonna say before we like move on to the next question, I just had a book that I had like I read, I guess. I read the audiobook, but I feel like I feel weird about bringing, I don't like the word, you know, just like, oh, smart, da da da. But the book is called, that's what I think something that we need to talk about also is like a lot of the resources that we have that for ADHD, a lot of them like categorize it like, oh, you were smart, or like you were like, you know what I mean? Just talking about how like those ableist words, like who is what, I think, but they're always also the ones that like I'm able to get the resource from. So I think that just has to do with like changing the language that they use for like how they categorize the books. But the book that I really like appreciated was it was called Smart But Stuck, with emotions in teens and adults with ADHD. It basically shows like 15 I'm going to read the like little like, you know, snippet. It has like presents a new view of ADHD, and offers 15 true and compelling stories about teens and adults who've gotten stuck at school, work, and or social relationships because of their ADHD, and explains like the unrecognized roles that emotions play in the disorder, I guess. And then he explains why even like, I guess, smart people, you know, with ADHD get stuck because they can focus well on some tasks and that interests them, and they can't focus on important tasks like, you know, and relationships. And I feel like that was me, where it's like, we're so what is it, not interest driven, is it? Yes, interest driven. Right. Okay, so I'm like, it makes me feel selfish in that way, right? We're like, okay, I'm interested in this thing, and so I'm going to pay attention to this. And so I just wanted to like bring that book up, just if anyone wants
say that
to
book
like
again in the author, because and I'm sure we'll put it in the resources stuff, but
yes, it's called Smart But Stuck, Emotions in Teens and Adults with ADHD. And I was like, whoa, I relate to this story. Whoa, I relate to this story. It was just like,
and that's such a simple word, but I've never thought about that. Just feeling stuck, like you can't move any further. That is such a simple word, but I think describes a lot of the feelings of ADHD really well.
Yep. And then he talks about like ways to get unstuck, you know. So
I like this.
Yeah,
I think I'm definitely gonna have to. I'm trying to do more audios because I often buy a lot of books and don't read them, so audio needs to be the way.
Yeah, but you know, like we have ADHD, like we love to purchase something when we're feeling a little down.
It's so pretty to have them on the bookshelf.
And then it arrives and you're like, oh, okay, what else can I get? And then it just sits there and you're like, I'll read you later. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm over that impulse now. Yeah. In case you were wondering about that, the guy whose speech I was talking, TED Talk I was mentioned before, is called Salif Mahamani. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's called ADHD Sucks, but not really. And maybe as well, I thought it might be useful to just give a quick definition of masking in case anyone doesn't know what it is. Masking is something that people who are neurodivergent, and I'm sure others do it as well, do in order to become or be perceived as more normal. But it involves you internalizing things like your hyperactivity or perhaps if you were autistic, it would be copying things that you've seen other people do that aren't natural to you. So basically shielding your true self and putting on a mask of who you want other people to perceive you as, so you seem more normal in quotation marks.
Thank you for that, Mani.
That's okay. So as well, just to go back to masking again, I'm interested in what types of ways you guys have masked to make sure people didn't treat you like you were stupid specifically. So for example, I think I can think of one for myself. It's when you're in meetings and people are talking and they ask you a question and you have just been completely zoned out, you've not been listening, and it's almost like you can feel your cheeks going red. I just find myself going, yeah, I just before I mention that, I want to mention something else. And then I'll kind of change the subject a little bit. And then they will remind me of what they were talking about after they've commented on what I was saying. Or again, just pretending that my Wi-Fi cut out if it's on Zoom. But that's a masking technique that I've recently realized that I do. But yeah, what about you?
Oh, you just made me think. I feel like, yeah, my main masking is literally in meetings and at work, and it is, I feel like, kind of having a script in my head sometimes. If I have like, of kind of, I guess, key things that I probably will try and say if I have totally zoned out. Or I do feel like a lot of the time, especially as I'm in a role where I'm still trying to understand the policy, like really having to rehearse for meetings, like having to kind of write down everything I think I need to say, or write everything that's probably been said, because I know I'm going to forget things. I think I said before, imitating probably how I see other people conduct themselves in meetings. I think, yeah, definitely a lot of work related stuff, but yeah, please, others come in.
I would also say my work have given me a fidget toy, which I feel like is almost asking me to mask, because they asked me to use the fidget toy instead of getting up and walking around, or, you know, instead of like doing something that visibly might distract somebody else, like jerking my legs or kind of moving my body, or stay in a meeting, because obviously you get the impulse to get up and walk off sometimes. Use the fidget toy. And I personally feel like that's masking.
But does that work for you?
I mean, it's better than nothing. If I have to say sat down, it stops you feeling like a coiled spring, as they say, the psychiatrists. But yeah, I guess it's works-ish, but it doesn't feel like I'm being my authentic self.
It feels so like, oh, I learned what disabled people want, so here's a fidget toy. I don't know, it just feels, you know what I mean? Like I saw it on the internet one time, and so like, you know, like it doesn't feel intentional. It feels like a like, here, we give you what you need, now act like a normal person.
Like they read a BuzzFeed article, 5 things
Exactly.
to help someone with
Right,
ADHD.
that's what it feels like. Not like intentionally, like, hey, what accommodations would you like want? That's an actual way to like get to the bottom of the you know.
Yeah, I kind of feel that would make me feel like anxious, because it's like you're telling me that you have a problem with how I am. Like maybe ask me how I'm doing or what things might help. Maybe I might need to get up and walk about for a bit just to get it out of my system so I can sit and then go back to work. Like, don't just hand me a fidget toy. Like, they could have dealt with that in a better way, to be honest. Like, that, I don't think that's cool.
Have
Like,
they asked you all about your reasonable adjustments or ways that they can, other than just suggesting? Because it sounds like, yeah, good intentions, but not really taking the time to see your needs.
It's one of those things, really. We had a meeting with occupational, I had a meeting with occupational health, and it was, you know, it was good. But at the same time, it's almost as if that's, now that you've had that, you can be normal, if you know what I mean. So it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't have ADHD anymore, because you've given me a list of things that I can do and discussions that we've had. I'm still going to make mistakes. I'm still going to probably miss deadlines. I'm going to forget to upload things to the database. And, you know, I'm going to be late to meetings. I'm going to forget that there's a meeting, but I am still going to be good at the things that I'm good at. So perhaps placing more value on someone's worth, someone's individual worth, rather than the ideal candidate's worth, because the ideal candidate might be great at some things, but I'm sure I'll be better than they would be at some things. I will be
Mm.
way worse at other things. But just
Yeah.
reflecting on the candidate that you have and the employee that you have. And I think that probably would go for the same thing in schools. Like in a classroom, you're going to have loads of students. Some students are going to be great at participating. They're always going to put their hand up. They're always going to answer questions. Some students are going to be shy. Some students are going to be great at getting the answers right. Some people are going to be enthusiastic. You need a mix of people. So to judge everyone by the same standards in the workplace or at school, to me, just doesn't feel like a reasonable adjustment.
Yeah,
No
and
matter
it goes,
what you put in place, it's
I
still
think
not
you're right,
reasonable.
because it goes to this idea of kind of not making things comfortable for us, but how we can be made suited for the world kind of thing, as
Mm.
opposed to really like taking the time to help you and your needs. Because you're right, there's like just so many ways that they can try to help and take the time, like you said, and it's ongoing. Like if you clearly have loads of amazing skills for the role, how about some of the other things you think I'm not as good at? Can they be delegated to other people? Like there's all these other ways. I think sometimes it's just not taken the time to look at. It's like, why overwhelm me with 101 things if I'm doing like 80%, 90% of the things well? Some of these other things, what can you do to kind of take that off the load? Because I'm, like you said, probably going to be doing so many of the stuff better or in my own unique ways that's going to help the team in the long run. And yeah, it's often, I feel like ADHD can be made to feel like an inconvenience, as opposed to like we're inconvenience in the world, as opposed to, yeah, I feel like I'm phrasing it wrong, but
No, I
not
understand
like,
Get what you mean.
I think as well, that's the kind of, when I got my diagnosis, I think it must have been in 20, maybe, I can't remember when. It was either 2020 or 2020. No, yeah, it was 2021. I was really worried that when I started taking my medication, or when I started going to, when I started changing the way that, when I started understanding the fact that I had ADHD, it would completely remove my personality, because the things that I felt were me were actually my ADHD. So my hyperactivity, my inability to sit still, my curiousness, but the way I always move house, I'm always going from place to place, thing to thing. I thought that was me, and me being a Sagittarius, but actually
Hey.
it's so funny all the reasons we think, isn't it? It must be my star sign, this, so this.
But then you're like, you know what? Now I know I have ADHD. It doesn't make me a kind of soulless individual who is just ADHD and nothing else. All these things have combined to make my personality, make me who I am. So I think for anyone who might be worrying about that, because I've had a few people mention they felt the same, is this my personality or is this me? It's all you, but
Yeah.
I definitely feel that way of like taking away your personality, because I think I went through that. I was like, why do I laugh so much? Like, why do I talk so much? Like, I was like, oh my God, like I'm the worst person. Like whenever people would like write things about me, they would be like, oh, like I love your laugh or something. Like in my yearbook when I was like younger, it was always like, oh, I love your laugh. And I'm like, oh my God, am I just my laugh? And so like I felt like I had to like change like who I was, like how I interacted with people, but I couldn't like do it as well as like I thought that I could, so it's like it becomes like a burnout cycle. And I wanted to kind of touch on the back to the TED Talk kind of, just because like I know a lot of people frame it in like the way of a superpower, but like for some people it's not their superpower. I think that also is something for a lot of folks. It's like I feel like we're saying a lot of hard things that happen in our daily lives, and so for some it's like it's better for them to accept it as not a superpower, if that makes sense, because it's something that brings them like a lot of dread and a lot of things that they have to work through, or a lot of like, just a lot of intricate things that they have to work through that they wish they didn't have to. And so for some people, they're like, they don't like when they, I just wanted to like, I guess, bring up that point that if it's not a superpower for you, like it doesn't have to be as well. Like it could just be that you are a person with ADHD and that you just have the like tools to like work with it now that you know that it is, but it still is a lot of like hard work, and so.
Like
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, like I don't feel like my ADHD is a superpower, and I kind of feel like I know there are people who are older than me that have like just found out that they have ADHD as well, but it's like having a recent diagnosis and then kind of like having to, when you kind of like get the diagnosis and then everything clicks and then you start kind of like processing everything that happened in the past and you're like, oh yeah, that, oh yeah, that and that. But with me, I did so badly at school that I had to do like make up extra courses just to be able to go to uni, which took me years to do, but like I got there in the end. So go me. I don't know how I did it, but I got a degree in the end with honours. Boop boop.
Well
Sorry.
done.
So, oh my god, have I forgotten my point? Da 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 da. Yeah, sorry. So
Superpower.
You're saying it's not your
Yes,
superpower. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
it can be difficult.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it has not been my superpower. I have struggled with so much stuff, and then to get the diagnosis, and then to kind of just be left to sit with it, and then I'm like learning new stuff every day because my titration process has only started like 2 months ago, so it's kind of like to a lot to go through because then you have to like kind of mourn all the like stuff that happened if things were particularly bad, and then you have to try and work out, well, okay, this is me, I have ADHD, what things do I need to kind of like start doing to like help myself, how are the meds going to work, are they going to suit me? I feel like there's
Yeah.
just so many things you have to think about, and like I've gone up to like 70 milligrams in Mm, 8, 9 weeks, and that
Of
feels
what?
quite, Elvance,
Okay,
and I
is that
start yes,
atomoxetine?
no, it's a lexdesamfetamine. I'm
Okay.
not good at words, but it's like a stimulant med. So I started on 20, and now I'm on 70, and they kind of neglect to, like, tell me, "Oh, we're upping your meds." They just send it in the post, and it's like, "How about you tell me
What do you
why
mean?
you're upping my meds? How about you
Okay,
take you
that's
know?"
bad. That's not consent. That's actually they haven't got
I'm
your
about to
consent
say
to do
they're
that.
supposed to be doing that through the titration, isn't it? Because they're supposed to be testing it out with you and seeing how checking your blood pressure and stuff. So they shouldn't just be doing that without your consent.
Because
Like,
you
I'm
might not consent to that. You might
Yeah.
they
yeah,
haven't
And
explained to
react
you.
badly to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they get me to fill in like the form like every week and I do my blood pressure and everything's fine, but to just be sent the meds and not told, oh, we think you need this because of this, and then having to repeatedly message them the question over and over again and to get ignored. I don't know, I feel
Mhm.
like it's a lot of stuff to deal with.
The whole ADHD
Yeah.
it feeds back into feeling making you feel stupid again, isn't it? I always say that
Yeah.
the whole ADHD like process of getting a diagnosis is the most anti-ADHD process, and
Oh,
then
for
making you
sure.
feel like part of me feels like, is this to like to jump to really confirm I definitely have it? Like this
Yeah.
is the
Oh my
test I
God.
have to go through. You're making me feel like 6 forms and then try and get in, and then I'm forgetting passwords to log into accounts, and it is.
Why do they do that? Honestly, I think personally, I feel like I was so down on myself when I was getting my diagnosis, the whole process, like also the years leading up to it, get progressively worse, I feel like.
Mm,
Hence why you get the diagnosis later. Almost it felt to me like I was struggling with everything so much more. Maybe because I had more introspection as I got older, I started caring about stuff and the way I was showing up to things actually start to bother me rather than just thinking, oh, I don't care. Give a fuck.
yeah.
Just, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I just did. So I think, but then, so when I was so down on myself, it kind of made me feel positive in a way when I heard people reflect on it in and almost as if to say it's a positive thing. But at the same time, I completely understand when you're saying, someone saying to you, "Oh wow, your ADHD is your superpower," and you're sat here, you haven't been able to brush your teeth for 3 days, you've barely showered, you haven't had
Mm,
a square meal in a week. You're just like, who are you to tell me that someone who is probably 10 years after their diagnosis got paid all the money to get all of the £1 million worth of medication and appointments? So I completely understand where you guys are coming from as well.
mm,
But one thing I will say, because I agree, like it's just so different for people, isn't it? Some people feel like it's kind of a superpower of people, like you said, you have days where it's literally like I'm just trying to survive. But I feel like what I think it does for a lot of people is just tries to help you be kinder to yourself, or at least try and understand like there's reasons. That's what I do always appreciate with it, that's even when you are having kind of those down days, you at least it just gives I hope for people, like a more level of compassion to yourself. I feel like it's definitely helped me. And I still have days where I'm like so hard on myself, but I feel like there's just a little bit more compassion, that there's more to it. It's just not I'm not just stupid. I'm not just like, well, I'm not stupid. I'm not lazy. It is like there's something that just needs to help me work with my brain differently. So I feel like I just have appreciated that, with or without official diagnosis. Once you at least have the language of, oh, I think this could be ADHD, and have spaces like this, I just like feel like it's so valuable for that, at least.
And maybe they should have more of that mindset in schools, like understanding me as a person. I might feel like rubbish and down on myself, and I'm allowed to feel like that. But in schools, you shouldn't be pushing that idea of it being a negative, like, you know, a naughty child, that kind of stereotype of someone who can't sit in a chair and throwing chairs around the room and constantly shouting at the teacher and disrespecting people. You move away from that stereotype and more of an understanding of ADHD as a spectrum, as a whole. Kind of so many people can be one thing and not another, and then that would probably create a space where people don't grow up feeling stupid and feeling not enough and inadequate. And then maybe, you know, maybe places like ADHD babes wouldn't need to be so important.
I think
still
understanding
would, I feel like.
Yeah. I think for me, I think understanding that like ADHD is a learning disability also clicked for me, where I'm like, okay, I understand like the things that are happening. And I don't think when I'm having hard days, I wake up and I'm like, oh, well, ADHD is my superpower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's more so like, I'm just like, okay, well, I guess these are one of the days that it's just harder, you know? And then I just try to get through that. But I feel like if I'm thinking, it's hard for me to think of that in that moment. I'm not like, oh, ADHD is my superpower, so let me be lazy today. It's kind of hard to think of that. I think it's more so just like, okay, well, I need to not be hard on myself because I have this learning disability. That's how I kind of formulate it in my mind, I guess. So it's interesting how everyone's different though.
And seeing it as all these, I guess, exactly, people need to understand that everyone will have good days sometimes you'll have worse days. And for example, my ADHD is so different to yours, and everyone's is different, that it's just never going to be as simple as one diagnosis, one pill, and you're sorted.
And that's what I think we need the language to be more, isn't it? The fact that ADHD affects people of all walks of life and all levels of intelligence, and it is more, like Beza was saying, kind of a learning disability, and more about the impacts on kind of your behavior as opposed to your intelligence. So it's like understanding it's like the executive function. So it's not necessarily about your intelligence, it's just about how it will affect your executive functions. It leads to affecting so many facets of the way we do things. So I feel like it's just, and that's how I feel like it needs to be framed to like families and to people. So like that helps the language and helps families feel like, okay, so my child has this. It just means that it's going to affect the way they do certain things. They're not stupid. We just need to be able to help them find ways to do things. I just feel like that language will help.
I think also like unconsciously and consciously just thinking about how we place worth on different sets of intelligence, right? Like what is intelligence anyways? I think also unlearning that as well, because like I know I'm guilty of that still, of like you want to be you're like, okay, well, I can make up for it in this avenue, right? It's like, okay, I suck in this avenue, but let me, you know, show my skills in this avenue. But I think just inherently understanding that a person has worth because like they're a person, right? And so I think that also will help on those days where it's like, okay, I can't get up from my bed, but I inherently have worth because I'm existing as a person. And I think that also helps.
Yeah, that's so 100% true. And I feel like no one has ever said that to me before when I've been in one of my really bad days. Like just being a person is enough. Your worth isn't dependent on all these different things that you're seeing, even when you turn on your phone. You know, like seeing all these people being so successful, and someone's got up at 5 a.m. and done all this yoga, and now they're in the office. And you just think to yourself, I could never.
What you don't know is it's a green screen. They did it the night before, edited it, and then we're like, hey, you could.
Oh yeah, and they do the like they send off at 5 a.m. right?
Yeah. It's an illusion. It's not real.
Okay, so the recap of kind of what we've been speaking about today, mainly we've been talking about the difficulties we've had within the school systems and ableism, the fact that ADHD doesn't necessarily, well, actually definitely doesn't mean that you're stupid. It just means that you have a problem with things that other people find easier. Discuss the fact that we think there should be more understanding in schools, the fact that in workplaces people need to make reasonable adjustments to what you feel like you need, not just what they feel like would make you a better employee. We've also touched on things that we do with regards to masking, whether that's in relationships, in the workplace and at school. I personally think the thing that I've liked the most about this and learned, made me feel like I've learned something, is hearing about your guys' experience and the way that we've had so many similarities in our lives, but also so many differences. And it's made me feel a bit more buoyant. And I think I'll carry that buoyancy with me for a little while now.
I love
Thanks,
that.
Wally. I've learned so much from everyone today. Same. So many takeaways.
Yeah, it's really nice to like see everyone's different experiences as well, and that like we do have this support group and we are bringing more awareness, and like we're here to support each other. And also one thing I've noticed, like I will say sorry a lot and stuff, and constantly I would be a millionaire for every time I said sorry. Actually no, billionaire, sorry, take that back. I just said sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just did it again. Another pound went in.
Mhm.
Like just learning to kind of like be more forgiving to yourself, and also if you are like kind of like okay to be honest about like at work, at school, about your ADHD, and people dismiss you, it's like just to have like ways to protect yourself. So you know, like it's not you, it's them. You're just trying to get
Right.
through life. You're just trying to survive, which Abigail, you said survive earlier, and that like my brain just went ding 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 because I feel like that's all I've been trying to do. And I'm kind of like amazed at like some of the stuff like I've managed to do, even though I have struggled so much. But it is like surviving and just trying to work out like who you are, stuff like that. But also having a nice support network is good. Also, friends and family you can trust. I know it can be really hard to open up to friends and family, but if they dismiss you, it's not you, it's them. So
Couldn't agree
yeah,
more.
I need to remember that, because talking to my family about my ADHD, that did not go well.
It's a
Yeah,
process, isn't
that did
it?
not go well. But yeah, I
Yeah, it's
kind of just
hard.
rambled. Sorry.
No, you didn't.
I just wondered if Beza, you had a favorite thing, or before I said the last little,
Sorry, what?
if we wanted to, I didn't want to jump in with this, with the last of my last comments, unless without without checking whether you wanted to say your favorite thing from this session, or your thing
Oh
that you
shoot,
were
my
most
favorite part.
interested
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, my favorite thing. Um, I think just always talking about the experiences that we have. Like we all are so different, but it's like we also have the similarities, and like that's what I love. And just that we like this space has been so amazing. Just you know, the ADHD babes is just, it's like international. We're international. Like I'm in the
What?
US.
International
You're like
babes.
in
What?
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I would have never met you all. So I think every time like I come to an ADHD babe session, or if I do a podcast, like that's just what I remembered, that like other people that understand the same thing, that like what I'm going through exists, and that it's not just a problem that, you know, I'm gonna internalize. And I think these were one of the moments where I'm like, okay, like these are different ideas that I can take with me, but also like not everything is for everyone. And just like, but understanding that we're all in this together kind of a feeling. And so that's what I loved.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, just like you said before, I definitely think it was so nice to hear you say that your self-worth is so much more than just your intelligence, and your worth is enough. You are enough. Your worth is you as a person. So thank you for both of you, Abby and Shereen, for joining us this week. Before you go, can you tell the audience what you have going on, if you've got anything to share?
Not much from my end. You can follow me on Instagram, Abby on ABI_AGYEI. Just rant a lot, talk about lots of experiences. I did do a TEDx in May about like Black women and like ADHD. It still hasn't come out yet. It was supposed to have come out. When it does, I'll pass the information out. It's still not on the TEDx website. Don't know what's going on there, but I'll pass that information. But yeah, that's it with
Wow.
me.
So wait, what year did you say you did it?
I did it in May. So it was supposed to come
May,
out. Yeah, it's not too long ago, but it was supposed to be on the TED. I think there's been a lot of problems uploading the videos and
I
stuff.
love how that's
So
like an ADHD. It's like thing. It's like, oh, I haven't done anything, but you know, I did a TEDx.
yeah, no, I
thing.
literally, because it was like a while ago, and then it's very typical ADHD. It's like you do something, you park it, and then it's like,
Right.
I'm like, yeah, it's just a small thing. It was just a small one, but yeah, but it still hasn't come out. So yeah, I'll let people know when if it ever does, if it ever sees the light of day. But I'll let people know.
And
Yeah,
how about
so-
you, Shereen?
Not a lot really, because like 15 months ago I had like a disc in my back explode, so I've basically been stuck in the house. It sat on like my sciatic nerve and shut down like my whole body. So
Oh my
like
God.
trying to deal with that and my ADHD diagnosis and like trying to manage everything has been pretty difficult. So I haven't been up to a lot, but I have like been helping out, like a co-hosted the episode that came out about navigating the workplace, which was awesome. And then getting to do this today, which was awesome. So also I do stream on Twitch and I'll play games as well because I'm a massive gamer. So if anyone wants to find me, my name is Glitter Nips, all one word.
I've seen your
Twitch name.
username. Okay, I always see your
That's me.
username. I'm like, who's Glitter Nips? Like I see you in the
I love
I'm
that.
finally meeting Glitter Nips.
It's because it's my my Twitch account name, and that's what I use the Discord for, so that's why it's just that. Yeah. So I do that. I'm like new to streaming. I do a variety of games. Also, I'm kind of looking forward to getting the wheels in motion of going back to uni, hopefully, from a massive break, because I'd like to do a master's in graphic design. So hopefully I can do that too, which would be great. But with the ADHD and all the forms, it's like, oh no, here we go, in form hell. But yeah, so hopefully I can get that going. So I'm trying to do like little bits and pieces, but with how my like chronic pain and stuff is at the moment, I'm just trying to be kinder to myself, that I know I can't do everything at once. Just take your time.
Exactly.
It will happen one day, because I used to play roller derby and I miss it so much, and I'm on crutches and I'm just like, I can't wait to get back and like hit people in a game. I'm not just gonna randomly go around attacking people, but like blocking and stuff. Like I just miss skating. I just feel so free. Like I just really miss it. But yeah. Oh, also teaching myself bass guitar as well.
We've got a lot going on.
So much.
It doesn't feel
So many
like
cool
it
things.
though. It doesn't feel like it. It really
Right.
doesn't.
We put so much on our plate and we're like, oh, we're not doing nothing. I think it's because we think about those days that we don't have spoons, and then we think about that and we're like, okay, we're not doing anything. But it's like when we do have spoons, we get things done. So
Yeah.
The spoons are piled high.
Oh, can I add my Instagram? I forgot about that.
definitely, yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, my Instagram is black_chunky, because I'm plus size and delicious.
Love all
No,
your
I'm not, I'm
names.
not.
I know. So
You
creative. I
are.
see why you're a graphic
You are
designer.
Yeah.
No, my name is black_chonky_roller babe. So there I'll post like bright makeup looks, like what's on my face right now, that's nothing compared to what's on there. I also was doing like skating videos. I'll do stuff about gaming. I'll talk about my ADHD, my mental health, because I kind of feel like it's got to the point where I don't care. Like, I think we need to be able to see people talking about their mental health and how they feel, because then others don't feel alone. And I also started that account because in roller derby, like it's usually typically slimmer bodies, and I'm plus size, so I kind of wanted to show that there are also Black skaters who are also plus size who do it as well. So that's kind of why I started the account. But while I'm off injury, it's kind of just like mostly like makeup and music and mental health and lots of glitter when I can. But yeah.
I love it.
So don't forget, you can reach out to us with a message for our Dear Babes advice episodes. You can send us a voice note or a written message by clicking the links on the show notes.
If you'd like to join ADHD Babes or learn more, you'll find the links to our website and social pages in the show notes, as well as visiting ADHDbabes.com.
Thanks for listening. If you like today's episodes, please feel free to follow so you don't miss future episodes. We'd be so pleased if you could leave us a rating and a review and let everyone know your thoughts.
Catch you next time. Thank you, Abigail and Shereen. We really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, have a great day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and needs help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit ADHDbabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.